Hi, yogis. Today we're talking about Sukha and Dukha. Now, these are two terms that you may have heard. Sukha means in ease, to be in ease, to live in ease, to practice in ease. And Dukha is dis-ease. So, what does that really mean? As yoga practitioners, as a yogi, right, we already know that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. That's part of the yoga practice. That's really what yoga was founded upon, right? That we are these spiritual beings having a human experience, and what exactly does that look like? So I want to talk today. This is the Healthy Human Project methodology, and it's really about like who are we as a human being? What are we? If we were to look at ourselves not just as one thing, but we're looking at ourselves as five different pillars. One, two, three, four, five. And we are this whole human being. Here we have body. Here we have mind. Here we have spirit or soul. Here we have energy because we are frequency, right? We are vibration. And here we have the environment. So as yogis, we have to look at ourselves as what are we? What makes up all of us? Now, most of us in the West, in the United States at least, we find yoga through the physical. We start here with the hatha yoga practice. We start with our body. Now, we know that this is asana. These are the postures. So we're training our body to sit, to stay, to be still. We train our bodies to be strong, adaptable, and flexible. Right? Those are all qualities that we want in our bodies. Adaptability, strength, mobility, flexibility. And these are all things that we carry off into our lives too, right? But we have our asana, or what we could call exercise, movement, which is to build strength and flexibility. Strength, flexibility, adaptability. We have nutrition. We have sleep. We have rest. Um, Water or hydration. What are the other things? If we were to look at, and I was talking to a friend the other day about what would it look like to be wealthy? Like your idea of wealth, what is that? As I was making a vision board this year, my idea of wealth was travel. Like, so if I could go and travel all these places, that's what my life would look like to be wealthy, because at the moment I'm kind of confined to one place. So I want you to think about what would my wealthy body look like? Wealthy, healthy body. Sorry about the dogs. Wealthy, healthy body. Then we have our mind. So our mind, these are our thoughts. Our thoughts come from our beliefs. Okay, we have our mind, and our mind, our thoughts, our beliefs. Um, this is our unconscious or subconscious. A lot of times they think we think about the mind and we think about the conscious mind, but um, there are many parts of the mind. So that's something that we get by, it's so cool because modern science is able to tell us more about the aspects of our minds. So we have our unconscious and our conscious mind. It's how our beliefs form our thoughts form our words form our actions, and they kind of cycle. It's the sort of the cognitive behavioral therapy type of cycle, which can go into body as well. Then we have our spirit. So we know that we are a soul, right? We're a soul having a human experience. And spirituality in the West, in the United States, we have separation of church and state. So our government and our religion or our spiritual practices are very distinct, right? Our country was founded on separation of church and state so that people could practice their religion without being persecuted. We value that. Now, in India, where yoga is from, religion, a person's spiritual practice is deeply ingrained with daily life. The culture of a person's culture, you almost couldn't separate a person from their religion, or because they're so deeply ingrained. The states have different languages and different religions, and each religion has their a language too. So you're learning lots of different languages. But the point is, here in the United States, we separate the spirit from everything else. We say, nope, soul is different. Spirituality, religion, that's got to be different from daily living. But in yoga, in the yoga wheel, you don't, because our spiritual practice and who we are and what we believe has to be deeply ingrained. Now, when it comes to spirituality, this is a huge part, because whether it's through religion or spiritual, not religious, spirituality is your faith. And with our faith, it's not just about faith as a healing practice, which faith is incredibly healing. And studies are showing how much faith really helps boost our immune system, and it provides comfort on those times in life when that are not comforting, right? Having a spiritual practice, and we can separate it here we can separate religion from our spirituality. Maybe this should be spirituality. Along with faith, it also provides us our purpose, or ikigai, as they say in Okinawa, your reason for waking up. What's the reason for waking up today? What's the reason that you do what you do? And knowing that your purpose will change at different ages and stages of your life and development, but having an idea of, what is my purpose? What am I waking up for today? Our spiritual practice also builds community, teaches ethical principles, ethical values, the ways that we behave and the ways that we treat other people. And this is incredibly important. And this is supposed to be from ages 0 to 25, really. If you look at what we're learning in the first 25 years of our life, or in the first quarter of our life, is we're learning, what do we value, and teaching our children. When I go into community, this also means like families, teaching our children ethical values. So all of that goes under spirituality. And this is something, not that yoga can replace religion. I think they go hand in hand. You have whatever your religious practices are, but as a yogi, we want to have a spiritual practice and have a really clear understanding of what are our ethical values. And of course, in the yoga philosophy, I hate to even say it's philosophy, because philosophy is like something that you read about without actually practicing. As a yogi, we want to be practicing these things. This is where we start the yoga practice, right? We start with the yamas and the niyamas. The yamas are the very first limb of yoga, because they're the foundation. So we live by, in yoga specifically, it's the principle of do no harm. So living by that, and that comes into our spirituality. Then we have our energy, our energetics. Now we might talk about them in terms of the chakras, the energy centers within the human body. We might talk about them as the nadis, these energy rivers that are moving through the body. But energy is also, so energy comes when, through the yoga practice, there's something called brahmacharya, which is, it used to be withholding semen, getting to the point of ejaculation without ejaculating, using that vital life force and turning it into energy for spiritual practice. We might not use it that way now, but there is a huge something as a American yogis, and not that this is just for Americans, but I'm American, right? So culturally, this is what I know. So I'm just kind of I know that I can't be the only American yogi that actually thinks about these things and goes through these things and thinks, how can I live this in modern times, right? But Brahmacharya is being aware of, where is my energy going? Is this where I want my energy to go? Something, boundaries. Now, we hear a lot about boundaries in terms of our interpersonal relationships, especially your relationship with family and stuff, right? But boundaries are actually also being aware of, where is my energy going? It's understanding here, when it comes to our energy, we've got to understand what our mind is doing. What am I thinking about? What is my thought about? Have you ever ruminated, where you're replaying a situation over and over in your head, and you're like, I can't believe they did this. I feel so violated or insulted or whatever it is that you might be feeling. And you're replaying it over and over. Well, it's giving a situation your energy. It's giving a person or a situation, something that's happened in the past, your energy. But if we're not conscious of it, then we end up giving away the best parts of our day, which is what happens if anyone turns on the news first thing in the morning. Is we're literally giving the best part of our day and the meat of our energy to something, first of all, that we don't have any control over, and second of all, to something that's negative. And so we're not able to actually put positive energy back into it, because it's like a negative suck. So we set up boundaries. Now, the boundaries can be, yes, between you and another person, but it can also be the boundaries of, wait a second, I'm not going to turn on the news. I'm not going to watch the news before, I'll give myself, if you wanted to watch an hour a day, which I don't even recommend, but if you wanted to watch something, then you would give it a certain amount of time, so it's not permeating all of your life force. So our life force is prana. Right. This is the energy that's running through us all the time. When you wake up in the morning, you've got a full bucket, hopefully, if you got really good sleep. If the body's functioning really well and all of these things are in place, all of these things too, it's not just the good. We can look at building these things out. We want to build out the pillars. But if we don't feed the body good stuff, what happens? It shrinks down and the pillar becomes small. So long as we have good sleep, we should wake up with a full tank of prana in the morning, and we're using our energy, giving our attention to the things that are important to us for that day, and not giving our attention to the things that aren't important for us during the day. And I'm finding this harder and harder, even as things like the on social media, how it says, do you want the ads do you want companies to be able to know what your shopping needs are, or whatever, so they can target more advertising for you? And a couple times I've said yes. Now I really wish I'd said no, because I'm like, you know what? I don't even want that. I don't want that desire. I don't want that pull. And I've overspent this month and last month on courses, because I'm constantly wanting to be learning more, and and becoming better versions of myself, so I can end up spending a lot of energy on stuff, and it just becomes too much. It's like there's a constant desire that's pulling you. So we have to have these boundaries. It's being aware too of, what are our old wounds? When it comes to our energy, this is healing old wounds, our childhood wounds, old wounds. So we want to start to heal the childhood wounds, because, of course, all of these wounds lower our energy, because we know what it's like to be injured, right? What happens when you feel sick? You want to just go by yourself, right? You want to be in bed with some ice cream and Netflix or something. Or when you're in grief, you want to hibernate, you retreat. When an animal is wounded, it hides and it retreats. Well, this is what we do as humans, is we hide and we retreat too. The only difference is that we still have to go to work. We still have to see other people. You're still interacting with other people, but there is this retreating and pulling in, because we've been wounded. So our energy is diminished. So if we're low, some of us might be functioning down here. So as yogis, we start to look at, what are my levels of each pillar? If this is on a scale of to 100, where do you fall on a scale of 100 in each of these areas? How strong is your faith, your purpose, your community, your ethical values? Do you live by the values that you have? Are you aware of what your values are? How strong is your ability to tell the mind, quiet, be still? to understand how to stop the chitta vrittis, right? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the quieting of the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. Sorry, I'm going backwards. This is my excitement over what we talk about. So here's a person, here we are, and here's a chitta vritti. It's like a big tornado. One thought spirals into another, spirals into another, spirals into another. We're basically walking around with this invisible energy called our thoughts. And it's funny, we think other people don't know our thoughts, right? For the most part, you're like, I can fake it. No, because this energy right here, you've this is here is our aura. This is our energy. You can call it aura, but there's a vibration. Have you ever walked into a room and there's someone that you just click with right away? You're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've known them forever. Like I just vibe with this person. That's your aura picking up on their aura. Or maybe you walked into a room and you're like, ooh, I want to stay away from that person. That's because you have become aware of their aura. They're sending out these thoughts all of the time. Everything that exists in the material world started as a thought. Every single thing started here as a thought. So we have to be aware of what our thoughts are. That is the power of the yogi. Okay, sorry, we're going to go back over here now. Okay, so here's our energy. So it's about being aware of what our energy is. This is called our state of being, right? So here's your state. Your state of being can be joy, it can be grief, it can be anger, it can be, every single emotion. We have a state of being. So becoming aware of what our energy is, how to change the energy, creating boundaries, understanding our prana, healing the old wounds, being able to do that so that ideally we can get this energy all the way out to 100. Then we have our environment. So the cool thing is now we know really with epigenetics that we are not separate from our environment. We sort of knew that with Darwin too, right? We're not separate. We're constantly evolving to adapt to our environment. So that means if we're in an environment that's full of anger, that's full of hatred, that's full of violence, that's full of less than, that's full of that we adapt to that. If we are in a place where we can't breathe, our bodies start to adapt to that. If you go someplace when there's a higher altitude and you start running, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe, right? Your body starts to adapt to it. We're constantly evolving. So what we can do as a yoga practitioner is to set up our environment to support our wholeness. This is the whole human being. When all of five of our pillars reach 100, we feel whole. And now, what's the cool thing with wholeness? The cool thing with wholeness is an end to that feeling of desire, an end to that feeling of not being good enough, not being worthy enough, of addiction and craving. I am a person that's I had I have I call it an addictive personality, but I drank, I smoked, I used pretty much everything on here. I think I used other than spirituality. I used different things so that I could try to feel good. I was looking for wholeness. For decades I was looking for wholeness. I felt so empty, I felt so alone, I felt unwanted, I felt like I didn't fit in. I was a misfit, I was a troublemaker, I was the black sheep, all of these things. And after I got sober, I was in my 20s when I got sober, and I quit smoking cigarettes, um, and I found yoga and I started practicing yoga. And I also started running marathons and doing triathlons and doing all these things because I was looking for a way to feel good after I quit smoking, and I needed and drinking, and I needed a plan, right? I needed a physical practice to keep me sober. Otherwise, it's so easy to resort back to your old ways and go to happy hour and all that stuff. So I started doing all this stuff. A friend said, go to this yoga class. I went to a power yoga class. I was living in Hawaii, and everyone moved so gracefully. There were 30 or 40 people on the mat, and they just it was, I didn't know it at the time. It was an Ashtanga class, very little cueing. Everyone moved in unison. It was beautiful. I was so lost. I was like, oh my gosh. And this woman next to me, she was older. She was Asian lady. And she says, oh honey, you just stick with it and it's worth it. Like, don't you worry. Just keep on coming back. And kind of like in an AA meeting. And I was like, what do you have? I mean, you have something that I want. And the thing that she had was contentment. It was wholeness. It was being completely comfortable in her body, knowing how to train her mind with her physical body in her 70 something years that she was, with her mind, in her environment, healthy with her boundaries, healthy with her spirituality. It was just, she was emulating wholeness. Now, after I got sober, I ended up switching to food addiction, and food addiction is really hard because you can't go without food. So I'm one of those all or nothing people. When I quit drinking, it was like, I'm quitting. This is it. I'm done. I'm good. I'm quit smoking. I did the patch and I weaned off of it for like 6 months. I was like cutting the patches in half, getting smaller and smaller and smaller because I was just so afraid. I had dreams about drinking and smoking for years afterwards. There was a lack of wholeness. When it switched over to food, then I ended up with this whole body dysmorphia and not liking my body, and my body wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. It took me, I mean, it honestly took me like 15 years of my yoga practice to start having a good relationship with my body, I think. It's okay because right now I have a really nice relationship with my body, but it takes this. It takes time and dedication where we go, all right, I'm building out all of these things. So wherever we come to our yoga practice, and you might be in here, or you might have one, let's say you've got a really healthy body, your body's all the way up here. And I understand what this is like because this is how it was for my husband, a super strong, healthy body. Did not have a good relationship with his body, but he fed his body well. He made sure to sleep. He had nutrition. He did asana. He did pranayam. He did, there was a lot of going into what am I feeding my body so it can be strong and healthy. He also did a lot of the mental things. Okay. So there's a lot of the understanding what are our thoughts? What are our beliefs? How do my thoughts create my reality? We didn't understand very much the energetics, and we didn't understand here the spiritual practice. So we can have decades of being a material yogi, and that's just a person who focuses right here on the physical. There's nothing wrong with that. Most of us come to our yoga practice through some kind of a physical practice, and you might stay on the physical practice and not expand out into the other pillars. But it's incomplete. There still won't be this level of wholeness. And this wholeness, when we can build out these pillars, we end up in a place called sukha. Sukha is ease, living a life with ease. So you can imagine this is a wheel and we're spinning around, spinning around. You might have, let's say, one or two, a couple of our pillars are built out really well and a couple of pillars are not. What happens is we're going through our life and you go, oh, it seems kind of smooth. But then if you had a flat tire, right? So here, then all of a sudden, this would go in. It would come in and maybe it would come like here and then it comes back out and it goes ba-bump. So you're spinning around, the wheel goes around and then ba-bump. And then it's going pretty smoothly again and then ba-bump. If you have felt like this, like life is going kind of smooth and then all of a sudden you hit this bump place in your life, then look at these five pillars and say, well, wait a second, is there a pillar that I need to expand out? This is what the Healthy Human Project is. It is helping all of us to come into wholeness through yoga, through the system of yoga, not asana, but through the whole system of yoga to be able to come into it, to move into our wholeness so that we can live in a place of peace. When we start to build all of these things, that puts us, we're on the path of the yogi, and that's the path to samadhi, the path to freedom. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? I know. I get so excited about this. So I just wanted to share it with you um, because I'm very excited about. You can see too. This is the Maca movement logo, which is my family crest. I'm going to draw it out here. If these were all circles, there are 5 circles within one circle, and this is us right here in the center. We are the center. Okay, we're the center and we're the whole, moving into our wholeness. I hope you like this video. I hope you enjoyed Sukha and Dukha. So Dukha is dis-ease. It's a lack of ease in any one of these pillars causes dis-ease, a lack of ease in this system of life, this life that we live. And that's all yoga is learning how to be a human. It's learning how to live this life and to live it with ease. So as I'm on the journey, I'm hoping that what I'm learning and experiencing will help others on the journey as well. And I'm so glad that you're here. My son Keanu. You can check out his channel. I'll put a link to it because he's Keanu's World of Wonder. World. Keanu's World of Wonder, and it is for kids, made by kids, for kids. I well, just made by you, yeah. All right. Also, we could invite friends. We could do that. All right. So here's the wholeness. Okay. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm so grateful for you. Till I see you the next time. Peace. Yeah.